Top 10 science experiments that went wrong. Science has come a long way since the days of alchemists and their potions. We have created technologies that let us investigate the smallest particles in the cosmos and the furthest reaches of space. Yet sometimes, even the most brilliant scientists can make mistakes. In this video, we'll list the top 10 science experiments that disastrously failed. These are experiments that not only went wrong, but also caused catastrophic harm and even death. Number 10. The Demon Core. On May 21st, 1946, a tragic event occurred during an experiment at Los Alamos National Laboratory. A scientist named Louis Slotin was demonstrating to his colleagues the technique of tickling the dragon's tail. This experiment involved bringing two hemispheres of a plutonium core dangerously close to criticality. Slotin had performed this experiment multiple times before and used a screwdriver to keep the hemispheres apart. Unfortunately, the screwdriver slipped and the hemispheres touched, leading to a critical reaction. Instantly, a lethal dose of radiation affected Slotin, and the other individuals in the room also received high doses. Slotin suffered from radiation sickness and passed away 9 days later. The other scientists in the room also suffered from short and long-term health effects. Some even believe the exposure may have caused or contributed to their deaths years later. Following Slotin's death, the core was called the Demon Core. Despite popular belief that one of the nuclear tests at Operation Crossroads used the Demon Core, recent research by historian Alex Wellerstein uncovered documents showing that it was ultimately melted down and recast into a new weapon in the summer of 1946. Number 9. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment began in 1932 with the aim of observing the complete progression of syphilis in 600 African American men in exchange for free medical care. Researchers from the U.S. Public Health Service, PHS, deceived the participants, telling them they were receiving treatment for bad blood. However, the PHS did not provide effective treatment even after penicillin became the recommended treatment in 1947. Local physicians were also persuaded not to treat the participants. As a result, the participants died, went blind, or experienced severe health issues due to untreated syphilis. The study was exposed in the mid-1960s, but by then, 28 participants had died from syphilis, 100 died from related complications, 40 spouses had been diagnosed with syphilis, and 19 children had acquired the disease at birth. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment is considered a dark chapter in American medical history. Number 8. Cancer research in Puerto Rico. Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, a prominent cancer researcher of the 20th century and a Harvard-educated pathologist, fell from grace after being accused of deliberately infecting patients in Puerto Rico with cancer cells. Before his downfall, Dr. Rhodes was highly regarded in the medical community, and the American Association for Cancer Research named its highest award after him, the Cornelius Rhodes Award. However, his reputation was tarnished when a Puerto Rican doctor accused him of infecting patients in the country with cancer cells. It was revealed that Dr. Rhodes expressed racist views in a handwritten letter, calling the Puerto Rican people insulting names that clearly showed his prejudice. In the letter, he also mentioned that the island needed something to exterminate the population. Dr. Rhodes conducted experiments that led to the deaths of several innocent Puerto Ricans. His unethical research was racially motivated and resulted in his ill-gotten gain. In 2003, the Cornelius Rhodes Award was renamed, and the honor was stripped from his name. Number 7. The Bhopal Disaster. On the fateful night of December 2, 1984, Bhopal, India witnessed the world's most catastrophic industrial disaster. Union Carbide's pesticide plant suffered a massive accident, releasing 30 tons of lethal gas, methyl isocyanate, and several other poisonous gases. Tragically, the plant was situated near shanty towns, exposing more than 600,000 people to the deadly cloud of gas. The gases emitted by the plant remained close to the ground, causing victims' throats and eyes to burn, inducing nausea and ultimately resulting in many deaths. Although estimates of the death toll vary, with some as low as 3,800 and others as high as 16,000, government figures cite an estimated 15,000 deaths over the years. The devastating impact of the disaster did not end with the initial release of gas. Even 30 years later, the toxic remnants of the accident continue to cause harm, with many of those exposed to the gas giving birth to physically and mentally disabled children. Number 6. Tony LaMadrid's death. In 1983, the University of California conducted a study that required medicated schizophrenic individuals to halt their medication. The purpose of this study was to gather data that could potentially lead to improved treatments for schizophrenia. However, the study had horrifying consequences for many of its participants. It caused 90% of the test subjects to suffer relapses into episodes of mental illness, leaving their lives in shambles. Tony LaMadrid was one such participant who enrolled in the study and tragically lost his life. Tony joined the study hoping to contribute to advancing treatments for his condition. He had to stop taking his medication as per the study's requirements, which triggered a relapse of his mental illness. Despite his struggles, Tony continued participating in the experiment for 6 years. The relentless battle with his illness eventually took a toll on Tony, who succumbed to his condition. He tragically jumped to his death from a rooftop. Number 5. The Kishtim Disaster. In 1957, the Soviet Union witnessed a nuclear disaster at the Mayak nuclear facility in Kishtim. The incident began when the residents of the Chelyabinsk district in the southern Urals noticed strange bluish-violet colors in the sky. Unfortunately, since the government had imposed strict secrecy protocols around the facility, regional and national news outlets reported exceptional polar lights filling the sky, masking the truth. However, in the months and years following the incident, villagers in the surrounding area began experiencing symptoms of contamination sickness. The disaster occurred due to the failure of the cooling system in one of the Mayak's cisterns, which contained radioactive waste. The lack of precautionary measures at the facility meant the faulty system went unnoticed. Eventually, the waste tank exploded, and radioactive material was released into the air, affecting an area of over 20,000 square kilometers. An estimated population of 270,000 people lived in the area then. The impact of the disaster was devastating. Villages were immediately contaminated, and within a few days, over 300 residents of one village died due to radioactive poisoning. In other towns, cancer rates increased significantly in the following years, and genetic abnormalities and other illnesses became widespread. Number 4. The Stanford Prison Experiment. Social psychologist Philip Zimbardo conducted an experiment in 1971 to investigate how people conform to social roles. The experiment involved male college students selected to live as prisoners and guards in a mock prison for 2 weeks. However, this experiment was unique because Zimbardo assigned the roles of prisoners and guards to the participants without their knowledge. The prisoners were unexpectedly arrested outside their own homes. What followed was both surprising and disturbing. Ordinary college students became viciously sadistic guards, or spineless prisoners who became increasingly distraught. The participants became deeply enmeshed in their roles, blurring the lines between reality and the experiment. After just 6 days, the unfortunate reality of this prison forced Zimbardo to end the trial prematurely. The experiment raised many ethical questions and sparked debate on the importance of ethical guidelines in psychological research. Number 3. Chemical testing in Australia. The Australian Army conducted secret human experiments to test the effects of mustard gas in tropical climates. The Army was concerned about being attacked with mustard gas by Japan, which had already used the chemical weapon against China. The experiments involved gas chamber tests on Australian Armed Forces recruits who were unaware of the potential harm they could be exposed to. The testing resulted in severe injuries to many of the volunteers and caused lasting damage to their health. The research was conducted secretly and without the full consent of the volunteers. The use of the mustard gas in a tropical climate was a significant concern during the war, and these experiments aimed to understand its effects better. This chapter in Australia's history is considered a dark one. Number 2. Elephant on LSD. In 1962, Warren Thomas, who served as the director of the Lincoln Park Zoo in Oklahoma City, decided to experiment on an elephant named Tusko. He aimed to explore whether LSD could trigger must, a condition that periodically causes male elephants to experience high hormone levels and aggression. To contribute significantly to the scientific community, Thomas injected Tusko with a dose of LSD 3,000 times more than humans would typically receive. However, the results of the experiment were catastrophic. Tusko collapsed and went into convulsions, leading to his death. The consequences of Thomas's ill-fated experiment were disastrous, creating a massive public relations nightmare for the zoo. Rather than positively contributing to the scientific community, Thomas's actions had the opposite effect and caused the untimely death of an innocent animal. Number 1. Curing homosexuality. During the 1960s, homosexuality was often viewed as a mental illness, and individuals with same-sex attractions sought ways to cure themselves, whether voluntarily or not. Experimental treatments of the time included aversion therapy, which involved pairing images of homosexuality with unpleasant stimuli, such as electric shocks or injections that induced vomiting. The idea behind such treatment was to make the patient associate pain with homosexuality in the hope of curing them. Unfortunately, these experiments had catastrophic psychological consequences for the patients. Instead of curing homosexuality, they caused immense damage, leading at least one man into a coma and eventually dying due to the treatment he received. These harmful practices failed to achieve their goals and reinforced societal stigmas against homosexuality. Only later, the medical community recognized homosexuality as a natural variation of human sexuality and rejected dangerous attempts to cure it. What did you guys think of our list? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.